following podcast is part of the Underdog Sports Podcasting Network. For a full list of our shows, as well as breaking sports news and engaging feature stories, visit us at www.theunderdogsports.com.
Talking around the bases with Ryan Carter and Logan Smith.
Welcome to Talking Around the Bases, episode 10. My name is Ryan Carter, and I'm joined again by Logan Smith this evening. What we're going to be breaking down is opening day baseball, since it is back and in full force. Today is March 30th, so we are recording on a Friday, so some games are going on while we are speaking. We're going to break down all the games and interesting things that we witnessed yesterday, and maybe some things that we look forward to tonight. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. How are you doing today, Logan?
Dude, I mean, I got to watch, I think, like 9 or 10 hours of baseball yesterday. Within the last hour, the Nationals got their first win of the season. So, I couldn't ask for anything else at this moment, man, watching baseball as we speak. So I'm good.
Yeah, I think I got to your house around noon yesterday, and then from noon all the way up until about 10 o'clock, we watched pretty much nothing but baseball all day. So it was definitely a very fun day. I got to see a lot of interesting things, a lot of heartbreaking things, and, some fun things too.
Yeah, well, most importantly, just before the action started yesterday, podcast favorite Greg Holland got signed to a 1-year, $14 million contract by the St. Louis Cardinals. So that just made the day so much better, because I think we were just so worried we almost couldn't even enjoy baseball without Greg Holland having a job. But after that happened, I think it kind of just put everybody to ease, and we could actually enjoy the day.
Yeah, big congrats out to Greg Holland for signing a deal finally and getting out there. So that was a nice way to top it off, and he waited up until the very last minute, like about an hour or so before opening day started. So congrats to him, and hopefully the Cardinals use him well, and who knows when he'll get out there. It shouldn't take him too long.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they probably needed to make a move. I mean, obviously St. Louis seems like they'll always be up there contending and whatnot. So with Luke Gregerson as slated in to be the closer, and then I believe he's having to start the year on the DL with a oblique strain, so you never know how long he's going to be out for. So they really needed something to shore up the back end of that bullpen, and it kind of seemed like it was just a perfect fit.
Yeah, and if you were working yesterday or didn't get a chance to watch all the games, we're going to go ahead and start off with the very first game of the day, which is the Cubs versus the Marlins that happened. And if you had a chance to miss it, boy, was it not too long before we got our first home run of the season. And first pitch, right down the middle from Urena, Ian Happ just delivers it right over the right field wall. And, I mean, he absolutely crushed that ball.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was great. They were just. I guess everybody was thinking, including the pitcher, that he could just throw one right down the middle to start off the season, and they'd save the ball or whatnot. But Ian Happ wasn't having any of that. I mean, just by the time we were getting comfortable, sitting down, got our snacks and food ready, and Ian Happ just demolishes a baseball into right field. That was awesome. I think he's going to be good this year. The big thing with him is going to be how Joe Madden uses him, because he could really be, a center fielder like they used him yesterday, or he could see some time at second base as well. Did strike out 3 times, but that was definitely a fun way to start off the year with that blast.
Yeah, and it was right after I was saying, Urena, I didn't think he looked that bad, and man, did he just look awful in the first couple innings. He kind of settled it down a little bit, but, on the other end, Ian Happ making a ball look silly in right field, and you have Kyle Schwarber making himself look silly in left field, and man, did he misplay 2 balls. He ran into the wall on one of them, and then there was another kind of like a grounder / line, the line drive that was hit to him, and he kind of just overran it and slipped and fell, and he was just all over the place out there.
Yeah, man, that was rough. When we were sitting there watching it, we both looked at each other after the first one was kind of iffy. It was up against the wall, kind of a tough ball, whatever, and he ran into the wall, and that looked bad. But then the next one, when it, like you said, it was just like a ground ball basically to left field, and he somehow managed to mess it up and get an error on it. So that was really bad. So, obviously Kyle Schwarber is supposed to be a DH, but since they're in the NL, they don't have a DH, obviously. So it's really interesting to see if he actually does end up losing playing time. I think they'd love to put him at first base, but obviously they have Rizzo. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try to deal with his defense out there because he's such a liability. But getting back to Jose Urena, he obviously was really shaky in the first. I mean, we walked the first couple of guys, hit a guy, gave up that leadoff home run. He ended up going 4 innings pitched, gave up 5 earned with 4 walks and then 2 strikeouts. So he kind of had a bad day. But honestly, and I'll let you talk about it, but Lester didn't look that great either yesterday.
Yeah, Lester was awful. Wasn't his Lester-like self. 3 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, only 3 of them earned because there was some errors. Hence the Kyle Schwarber, some other things fielding-wise. Walked 3 batters, only struck out 2 guys, and he was out of there at didn't even get through 4 innings. Just 3 in the third, done. Really bad. He was all over the place, wild, missing in, missing high. I mean, the strike zone was a little bit compacted, but it was just awful.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised. When you look at the Marlins lineup, which obviously we've talked about all offseason, how it's kind of just a shell of what it was last year, and they didn't even have JT Realmuto because he had to start the year on the DL, and the Cubs put up 3 runs in the first, you kind of think, okay, well, Lester, you got him pitching, and he kind of had an off year last year, but still, you think against that lineup, he should be able to lock him down. And they came back in the 3rd inning and dropped 3 runs, tied it up at 4-4, and that was crazy. I mean, we were really surprised with that just because you have guys, you have the third baseman, Brian Anderson, Garrett Cooper in right field, Miguel Rojas at shortstop. You have guys that really aren't household names that are pretty much hitting Lester good enough to, like you said, knock him out after he only went 3 1/3 innings. But the Cubs bullpen really, hats off to them. They pitched the remainder of the game, 6 2/3 innings, and they didn't give up a single run, only gave up 1 base hit. So that was a really good job by their bullpen. Cishek, Dunsing, Strope, Justin Wilson, and then Mike Montgomery shut the door in the 9th. So that was overall a really good job by their bullpen.
Yeah, and Rizzo added on a home run, and Schwarber also had a home run in this game too. So nice offense from the Cubs. Definitely should have been a lot easier game than it was, but Miami definitely fought back on them. Now, the next game that was kind of interesting, which was a little bit after, started around 1, which was the St. Louis versus the Mets game. Didn't get a chance to catch too much of it, but from what I saw, Syndergaard had a decent game. Wasn't by far just a complete win over because he did give up 4 runs, 6 hits, but he did strike out 10 batters, so he was really, really dominant, and looks like he was just in midseason form like usual.
Yeah, man. You look at the matchup of Syndergaard versus Carlos Martinez, and you really think that's a really great pitching duel, which normally it would be. But with the final score being 9-4, with the Mets winning, obviously it wasn't very much of a pitcher's duel. I mean, Syndergaard looked awesome. He was 6 innings pitched, 4 earned, 10 strikeouts. So obviously the 4 earned was more than what he'd want. Obviously Yadier Molina hit a 2-run homer off of him in the 2nd inning, and Jose Martinez, their first baseman, hit a solo shot off of Syndergaard. But other than that, Syndergaard looked really good. Martinez, though, only went 4 1/3, gave up 5 runs, 4 earned, but 6 walks. You really don't want that to happen. I mean, obviously, I don't think he would be nervous since he's been a major leaguer for at least a couple of years now. So that was kind of surprising to watch him. I mean, obviously the Mets were pretty patient. Jay Bruce had 2 walks. Adrian Gonzalez actually had a pretty good game. Went 2 for 3 with an RBI and 2 walks, so he had a good game. Kevin Pilecki had 2 hits, 2 walks. So a lot of the Mets hitters, they must have had a game plan to just kind of take a lot of pitches or be really patient with Carlos Martinez, and obviously it paid off for him.
Yeah, it was very, very weird. So we have, Syndergaard, like I said, wasn't dominant, but now we have 3 pitchers who just didn't really, wow me in any sense. Like Martinez had an off game, Lester had the off game. Syndergaard did, strike out 10, of course, but I still feel like it was a little off. Gave up a lot of hard hits. So the one thing for the Cardinals was I wanted to see how Ozuna was going to do, and he didn't look very good. He went 0 for 4 and struck out 3 times. So definitely an adjustment period for him. And, of course, Pham having that nice year. Last year he went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts as well. So if those bats start to get going, I definitely think that the Cardinals will win some games here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's kind of going to be a theme of the day, but starting pitching was really kind of down yesterday. There wasn't very many good starting performances yesterday. We'll definitely get into some other ones later on, but yeah, I mean, I think the Cardinals, Ozuna, Pham, Fowler, all went 0 for 12 yesterday, which you can't really expect that. But then again, when you're going against Syndergaard, it's going to be tough to put the ball in play against somebody that throws a 93-mile-an-hour slider.
Yeah, and speaking of bad pitching, we're going to flip it here a little bit and actually go to the pitching duel of the table, which was the Minnesota Twins versus the Baltimore Orioles. Which both these pitchers, I watched the whole game, of course. Whenever it came on, I went downstairs and turned it on and watched this. And Bundy and Odorizzi really had their stuff going. Odorizzi went 6 innings, only 2 hits, did walk 2 batters, but struck out 7. Bundy went 7 innings. 5 hits, 1 walk, and no runs. Of course, both these guys, and 7 strikeouts. So, pretty dominant performance from both these pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this was kind of the surprise of the day, I think. We'll get to a couple more later on, but man, I mean, I was shocked by this because, you look at 3-2, but it was 0-0 up until the 7th inning stretch. I mean, Jake Odorizzi for the Twins pitched excellent, went 6 innings, 2 hits, 7 strikeouts, and Bundy pitched even better, 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, only gave up 5 hits. So, definitely a really good starting pitchers duel. It was really interesting with the Orioles lineup because I remember you telling me that they were talking about putting Chris Davis in leadoff, and they actually did. He went 0 for 4 with a walk, but still, Machado looked really good. It's going to be interesting. Sano went 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts, but at least he didn't get. At least he was able to play because there was a lot of rumors in the offseason about him being suspended. The Orioles are definitely hurting not having Zach Britton at the back end of that bullpen. Obviously, Brad Brock came in, and even though he got a little squeezed, I think because we were watching the 9th inning. He still walked, gave up 2 hits, 2 earned runs, blew the save. Michael Givens had to actually come in and bail him out in the 9th. So it's going to be interesting to see how long they stick with Brad Brock, or if they, maybe give it to Givens, give it to O'Day, or just wait for Britton to come back. Because, I mean, if the Orioles, obviously the offense is going to be there. So if they can really get their starting pitching turned around, maybe your some of your predictions aren't as crazy as some people might think.
Yeah, I mean, they played really well. Of course, in that 2nd inning, Craig Gentry robbed a home run from Eddie Rosario. That ball was crushed to right field, and he actually went over the top and got it for pretty much the first highlight reel catch of the 2018 season, because in the Mets game and in the Miami game, there really wasn't any defensive highlights. So that was one nice note. The second was that Brad Brock blown save. Davis did lose a ball in the sun, so that did get a guy on. So that would have probably got them out of it. So he didn't look too bad, but too many pitches through I think it was 27 pitches, 30 pitches, 34 pitches. Just too many pitches just to throw in one inning. But Adam Jones, of course, hits the walk-off home run in the bottom of the 11th, and this is 3 straight opening days for the Baltimore Orioles with a walk-off win. Matt Wieters did it. Trumbo hit a home run last year, and then now Adam Jones hit his first walk-off home run since 2012, which last came against the Phillies. So definitely a nice win for the Orioles. So sorry, Twins, but it was definitely a well-played ball game on both ends.
Yeah, I mean, congrats to everybody whose team won on opening day. It's always it's a great way to start the year. So congratulations to you and all the other Orioles fans or anybody that got a win yesterday. But if the team lost, it's the first day of the year. Let's all just be happy that baseball is back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And, moving on is one of the matchups which was kind of another pitcher's duel. There was definitely some ups and downs, but Houston versus the Texas Rangers. Houston ended up winning that 4-1, and Verlander was on his game today. Didn't give up any runs, 4 hits, struck out 5 over 6 innings. Cole Hamels did give up 3 earned runs, but struck out 7. Only pitched 5 and 2 innings, but 2/3 innings. But his walks were high, which is the reason why he did get out a little bit sooner. He did walk 4 batters, but definitely a good duel here. Hamels kind of turned it around. Verlander almost had unhittable stuff, and it was definitely a really interesting game to watch.
Yeah, I mean, another leadoff home run. George Springer led the game off with a home run, keeping up with that hot World Series that he had last year. But yeah, I mean, Verlander was great in the preseason in the spring training, and he obviously carried that over. 6 innings, no earned runs. But Hamels, he only gave up 3 earned runs, but I really feel like he was battling in and out of trouble all day. Like you said, gave up 4 walks, 5 hits. It seemed like every time we were flipping over to that game or watching that game, he just had a lot of guys on base. And against a lineup like that, where you've got, Springer, Bregman, Altuve, Correa, like there's no break in that lineup, you really don't want to be playing with fire, like that, because it's just going to end up bad for you. Obviously, it's nice to see Adrian Beltre out there. I think him and George Springer kind of had a funny moment before the game. Whenever George Springer was stepping into the box, he said he acted like he was going to bunt on Beltre and then pointed at his stomach, basically saying that he was going to bunt on him because he said Beltre was fat. So it's always good whenever, funny things like that happen in baseball, which seem to be followed around with Adrian Beltre. But I think we have to talk about in this game is the defensive shift that the Astros put on Joey Gallo, where they actually took Alex Bregman off third base and played him in left field, which gave them 4 outfielders pretty much, and only 3 people on the infield. What do you think about that, Ryan?
Yeah, they went the old softball shift. They put 4 people in the outfield to kind of cover more ground. I mean, Gallo, he didn't look that great that day, but man, did he make some balls fly with some hard contact. And I feel like if he gets it straightened out, they're just going to fly. So I like the defensive against that. Don't let it drop anywhere. You can kind of cover a lot more gaps, cover the walls easier. I mean, it's definitely an interesting shift for sure. So I don't know how much teams are going to use it or if that was just like a one-time thing, but I thought it was interesting.
Well, I mean, I think with obviously shifts have been around for a while. That's the first time I can remember seeing one that was that, crazy basically. But I mean, I just don't understand, and obviously it's easy for me to say sitting in a chair, but I just don't understand why guys like Gallo or Chris Davis don't try to lay down a couple more bunts. It seems like it would almost be, if they could lay it down, all you have to do is just get it past the pitcher on the left side because there's no infielder playing to the left of second base. So, I mean, maybe something to keep an eye on. If Joey Gallo or Chris Davis or anybody else that gets those crazy shifts on them, if maybe they'll start trying to bunt, because obviously shifts I think are becoming more popular. So the more crazy they get, the more things like maybe Gallo bunting more will happen. But the main thing with Joey Gallo is he just wants to hit him into the seats. Where unfortunately for anybody facing off against him, you're not allowed to put fielders out in the outfield seats to catch the ball. So as long as Gallo can keep hitting his homers, he'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main point. The reason why guys like Chris Davis and Gallo don't go for the bunt is because if you think about it, let's say they do bunt, that's just like taking an intentional walk pretty much, and then you're on first base. The guys behind them aren't going to hit the home runs. They probably might hit them in the double plays. Gallo and Chris Davis, they're just going to swing away because there's always that chance that they hit a home run. They'll strike out. Yes, they'll, maybe pop up. They might not get on base, and you say, the on-base percentage is more important. But with guys with that much power and our home run hitters, this is definitely better just to try to swing for the fences.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why they make the big bucks, is because obviously they have light tower power. One thing I did want to mention in this game is just something to keep an eye on. Ken Giles, obviously he's a good closer, and they gave up a lot to get him from Philly a few years back. In the World Series, obviously the manager lost some confidence in him because he was no longer the closer, and he was the only Astros pitcher that did give up an earned run. I'm not saying that they're pulling him from the closing gig right now or anything, but that bullpen does have a lot of really nice pieces in it. Chris Davinsky, Brad Peacock, Hector Rondon. So a lot of guys in there that, just to keep your eye on. If Giles does continue to struggle from the playoffs last year, they might have a quicker hook than you might expect with him being in the closer's role.
Yeah, and there was 2 other things that I wanted to mention about this game. Moving on with the left field play, there was a ball hit early on that Ryan Rua just misplayed. Just nonchalantly ran over top of it. kind of like the Schwarber ball, but he didn't like fall down. Kind of misplayed it a little bit, and that was a ball that Bregman hit. It was a line drive. It wasn't, straight up. He just had his glove there, and I don't know what happened with that. And then the second one was Brian McCann hit a swinging bunt type thing. Like he got over top of it. Gallo comes up and fields it, and as Gallows gets it, it's right on the line, so he decides to go pick it up. Him and Hamels actually collide, so luckily neither of those guys got hurt, but then Gallo misses the tag on McCann, so just a little bit more defensive miscues that I saw in that game.
Yeah, and I mean when you're facing off against the world champion, Houston Astros, you can't make any mistakes. You're not going to be able to walk, 4 or 5 guys, or you're not going to be able to make any defensive miscues and expect to win, even if it doesn't count as an error. You pretty much have to be on your game 100% playing off against this team because they're just so good. So it's definitely something where the Astros, they came out, they did their job. They didn't beat them just 4-1, but definitely I think the score could have been bigger than what it actually turned out to be.
Yeah, and if your eyes were not on the Astros game, your eyes were definitely on Giancarlo Stanton and the New York Yankees versus the Blue Jays to see how he did. And if you were one to watch, Stanton didn't miss a beat. I know we talked on here a lot about maybe he'll switch over and he has to learn the pitchers. It's a new league, but I mean I guess if you're just as good as Stanton, it doesn't even matter because Stanton had quite a day. He went 3 for 5, 2 home runs, a double, 4 RBIs, and scored 3 runs. So just pretty much impressive debut for him.
Oh man, I mean he looked awesome. It looks like he didn't miss a beat coming over from the NL East. Obviously that murderer's row of Judge Stanton and Sanchez didn't disappoint, but Stanton definitely was the one that shined the brightest. Like you said, hit that first inning 2-run homer off J.A. Happ. Which actually, J.A. Happ had a pretty good start. He only went 4 2/3, gave up 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. So if it wasn't for that home run, definitely a really good start for J.A. Happ. But yeah, I mean, Stanton, obviously, you're worried, well, he's never DH'd before. How's he going to handle that? Or like you said, definitely coming over to the American League. And none of that bothered him, at least so far. He had a great day. Judge went 2 for 4. Sanchez 1 for 5 with an RBI. Aaron Hicks, who actually just got placed on the DL just a little while before we started recording, he went 2 for 4. So that's going to be kind of a tough loss for them for a little while. I wonder if Jacoby Ellsbury can get healthy, if they start playing him. I saw they called up former top prospect. He's kind of fallen off the ranks lately, but Billy McKinney. So it'll be interesting to see how much he plays. Obviously, Greg Bird, I don't think we've talked since he went down. He's going to be out, I think, 6 to 8 weeks with that injury. So they're playing Tyler Austin at first base. But yeah, I mean, the Yankees lineup, Luis Severino pitched awesome. He went 5 2/3, only gave up 1 hit with 7 strikeouts, and the bullpen was really good for them. I think one thing that me and you noticed whenever we were watching it, and DL as well, was Josh Donaldson. Did you see him trying to make some throws over there to first base? It seems like he couldn't put anything on him.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next point here is 2 things. Is one with the Donaldson is he made an excellent stop. Donaldson, ranges to his right, knocks down a ball, just flat out awesome stop. And then he gets up and he throws it over to first base like a 12-year-old Girl Scout. I don't know if the shoulder's still bothering him, but 3 throws in this game he threw over to first base. All 3 throws bounced at least 3 or 4 times. 1 was off the mark. I mean, I could throw better than that. Something's got to be going on to the shoulder.
So I just looked it up, and I was reading this earlier today. So the manager came out, John Gibbons, and he said it's not a big deal, it's just dead, saying that Josh Donaldson is having a dead arm right now. I don't know about you, but if you're saying that you're having dead arm right now and you can't make a throw over to first base, that does seem kind of like a big deal to me.
Yeah, especially whenever you're playing third base, the hot corner, and that's, the longest range throw that's not deep in the hole, like a shortstop or second, across the diamond. And I mean, I don't know. He needs to strengthen it up or do something. Maybe, I mean, I know it's early in the season. They don't really want to sit a guy like that, but maybe you just got to sit him out because he didn't hit the ball either. He went 0 for 3. He did get a walk, but those throws looked terrible.
Yeah. I mean, he stole that base after that walk, like you said. But the problem is you've got Justin Smoke at first base, so you can't play Donaldson at first, and you have Kendrys Morales at DH, who's obviously a DH only. So, yeah, I mean, you're completely right, man. I mean, I don't know if what they're going to do about that because, I mean, obviously for a third baseman, that's a really big deal. You know, maybe if he was at first, you could try to hide it. You know, obviously you don't have to make a ton of throws over there at first base, but he plays a great third. You know, obviously he plays really good defensively, and obviously he's MVP caliber with the bat. So they definitely, you know, something for Blue Jays fans and just people that are really interested in the AL East in general are going to have to keep their eyes on. But other than that, you know, that was a really good game. Definitely had, you know, obviously whenever the Yankees are on and with that new lineup, everybody was tuned in. So, you know, pretty much what you expected. Stanton crushed the ball. But yeah, definitely keep we're going to keep our eyes on Donaldson, so we'll keep you guys updated, but definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and, you know, to continue the trend here, a day of left field mishaps. We have Curtis Granderson in left field in that first inning. That Stanton home run should have only been a solo shot because he flat out drops a line drive that Gardner hit to him. Just flat out dropped it. Was in front of it, had it lined up, hits his glove, and just drops right out.
Yeah, there was a lot of things, you know, as we've already talked about, and I believe a couple more that we'll still get to. Some guys might still be stuck in spring training. You know, obviously the season started a little bit earlier this year, starting March 29th. Instead of normally, you know, this weekend coming up in April. So maybe a couple guys just weren't ready for it, or like you said, because there was some pretty interesting fielding miscues, and we'll get to a game later on that had some pretty bad managing miscues, in my opinion. So definitely maybe some guys are stuck in spring training.
Yeah, and you know, you were talking earlier about how the Baltimore game kind of surprised you a little bit. In my opinion, the game that surprised me the most was the Tampa Bay Rays somehow pulling off a win and beating the Red Sox 6-4. And I mean, this is on a day where Chris Sale looked amazing, and he was on. 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, only 1 hit, but he had 3 walks. He did pitch 92 pitches, so you know, early in the season, they don't want guys to get too far up there. I felt like maybe if he didn't have those walks, he could have gone 7, maybe even a complete game. And on the other end, you had Chris Archer, who was, you know, hurt a little bit by some miscues. He went 6 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, and had 6 strikeouts. But, you know, he was on as well. So both these pitchers pitched pretty well despite, you know, Archer giving up runs.
Yeah, well, you know, like you said, the defense behind him, I mean, obviously Kevin Kiermaier is a beast. You know, he's amazing in center field, and they had Denard Span playing in left field, and they actually collided in the second inning, which let Eduardo Nunez, the Red Sox second baseman, get an inside the park home run, which, you know, they gave it an inside the park home run. They didn't give him an error, so that was 2 runs against Archer that probably shouldn't have counted, or at least, you know, should have been unearned, or however you want to say it. This game, like you said, man, I mean, Chris Sale was awesome. You know, probably could have went, like you said, if this was in July, you know, definitely would have went 7, 8, maybe even 9 innings. But they got into that Red Sox bullpen, which we both talked about in the offseason about being pretty much, you know, the Red Sox weakness for the past couple of years. You know, I thought they had fixed it by maybe getting guys like Carson Smith or Tyler Thornburg, Joe Kelly, Matt Barnes. Joey Kelly came in. He gave up a hit, 3 walks, ended up getting charged with 4 earned runs, and then Carson Smith came in and got charged with 2 more earned runs. So the Rays scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 8th, capped off. You know, Denard Span had a bases clearing triple, 3 RBIs there. But man, that was surprising. I mean, I think I saw a stat. The last time the Rays won a game when they were down by more than 4 in the 8th inning or later, it was in 2011. It had been over 200 games or something like that. So definitely surprising. You know, the Rays, they could be that wasn't a bad game for them. You know, Matt Duffy leading off had a hit, run, and an RBI. They really have a lot of moving pieces. You know, they have C.J. Cron at first, but then they put Brad Miller in or Denard Span with Malik Smith. So they're definitely going to be an interesting team. I think, like you've mentioned all offseason, right now they really have no idea what they're going to do with their starting rotation other than Archer, Blake Snell, and Jacob Faria. Since they had Nathan Eovaldi, he actually has to go under the knife again and get another surgery for his arm. So right now they're stuck to 3 starters. So it's going to be interesting to see how they patch that that together. But definitely one of the biggest surprises of the day was them coming back and beating the Red Sox.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things I love to see in the whole wide world is whenever Joe Kelly comes in, because I don't think he's very good. I've seen him come in a lot and just give up tons of runs. So he definitely wins the take-home award of opening day of getting to go home and sleep to his 108 ERA, 108 ERA. He walked 3 guys. He did not look very good. Carson Smith, granted, he had to kind of deal with the fire that was left behind, but, he didn't look very good either. And Kiermaier, like you were saying earlier with that defensive mishap, another left field defensive mishap, Kiermaier actually early robbed Mookie Betts of extra bases. Wasn't going to be a home run, but maybe a double, triple. And then next inning coming back, it looks like Denard Span was lining up to catch the ball, and I don't know if Kiermaier called him off or what had happened, but Span kind of let up, and then they just did a circus act and jumped over each other. And then, of course, Nunez got that inside the park home run. But this game was definitely very interesting. I'm glad Tampa Bay won on my standpoint, because I feel like the Red Sox are going to be really good this year. JD Martinez looked not so great. He went 0 for 3, did get a walk and scored a run, but he struck out twice. He'll get some time and get in there. But this is definitely one of the most interesting games for sure. Now, the other game that I found really interesting was the next one, which is the Los Angeles Angels versus the Oakland A's. Los Angeles actually lost this game 6-5 at the bottom of the 11th. Oakland walked this off, and the big story of the day is Mike Trout went 0 for 6, which I don't think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think, between him and Justin Upton went 0 for 5, so that was an 0 for 11 between the second and third spots of their lineup. But yeah, that was definitely surprising. I don't think anybody would predict that, so we'll have to see. Maybe he was just not seeing the ball well that day or anything, because Kendall Graveman, the A's starter, he actually kind of got hit pretty hard. He went 5 innings, gave up 5 earned. And Richards, he was pitching really well, Garrett Richards for the Angels, through 4 innings. And then the bottom of the 5th came, and he ended up giving up a 3-run homer to Chris Davis. And then right after that, back-to-back, he gave up a home run to Matt Olson. And that pretty much messed up Richards' day. They were tied at 5 going into the 11th, actually. And Justin Upton, another instance, he misplayed a ball in left field, kind of just thought it was going to be a can of corn, and it pretty much popped out of his glove, which gave the A's, guys on base. And then Marcus Semien actually ended up hitting a walk-off single. And we have to talk about Ohtani. He did get a base hit in his first at-bat. The first pitch he saw, he hit it right between first and second base, then went 1 for 5, so he didn't get a hit after that. But he did get a hit. It's definitely going to be something to talk about. I believe he's scheduled to pitch on Sunday, so that's going to be obviously one of the main things we'll talk about on next week's podcast. But, really interesting game. I'd say it was, like you said, Trout, you can't really predict that. And then with Garrett Richards kind of cruising along and then getting blown up, that was a little bit surprising as well.
Yeah, this game was, for being extra innings in a 6-5 game, not really much to talk about. There was a nice defensive play by Chapman, who kind of went out into the foul area and overtopped the tarp, made a really nice catch, which is always difficult to do. And I saw Josh Donaldson do it one year in Toronto, where he kind of fell in between the tarp and caught the ball, but it's definitely really hard to do, especially in Oakland, where they have those huge foul side areas. So, other than Ohtani getting a hit, Zach Cozart had a great game. Pujols looked, decent for Pujols. He had a home run. And then Cole Calhoun obviously had a huge game. He went 3 for 5, had a triple, had a home run, only had 1 RBI just from that, solo shot home run he had. But definitely vice versa here to say Ohtani actually had a better game than Trout, 1 for 5 compared to 0 for 6. But, Trout, he'll get it going.
Oh yeah. There's if there's anything that's consistent in baseball, it's Mike Trout. I think he'll be all right. But this game, honestly, I didn't really get to watch a whole lot of it. We were kind of watching more of the Red Sox Rays or the Yankees and Blue Jays whenever this one was on. So I didn't really get to watch a lot of it. I did see though in the bottom of the 11th, with the way that the A's won that game, the Angels actually put 5 guys on the infield and kept a guy in right field and left field, and they had no center fielder, and that's when Marcus Semien hit basically a bloop shot to center field. But since they didn't have anyone there, that won the game for him. So this is a fun series. The A's, I don't think Kendall Graveman's their best starter. I think the guy they actually have pitching tonight, Sean Manaea, would be their best starter. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. But you better watch out for Mike Trout, because obviously Mike Trout's going to be out looking for revenge about yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. And moving on, the team that me and you were really extremely excited about this year to see, the Milwaukee Brewers versus the San Diego Padres. They almost gave it away to the Padres. Milwaukee didn't score as many runs as I thought they would against a bad Padres team. The score was only 2-1. They did go 12 innings. They finally got a run in the top of the 12th. Knievel obviously had a blown save, but I mean, it wasn't too bad of a game, but this actually turned into quite the pitching duel, as Richard for the Padres, who I don't think is very good, went 7 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, and 4 strikeouts. He did have a walk as well, but I mean, he pitched 7 innings against this Milwaukee team who is just stacked with great hitters.
Man, another thing, like with this one and with the Orioles game, whenever you look at it, you don't think, I mean, you have Chase Anderson versus Clayton Richard. You don't think it's going to be a pitching duel, but Chase Anderson went 6 innings, only gave up 1 hit. Clayton Richard went 7 innings and only gave up 1 run. So, that was obviously really, I mean, that was a really good pitching duel. The Brewers, Corey Knebel gave up the blown save. They had Ryan Braun starting at first base, which was interesting because it was really, he didn't really like playing first from the things we heard during spring training. So they did end up getting Domingo Santana in right field with Yelich in left and then Kane in center. So it's going to be really cool to see how much Ryan Braun does play first base, if he can get used to it over there and whatnot. With the Padres, they were really excited to see Hosmer out there at first base. So yeah, really kind of a boring game. I don't want to say because any baseball, even pitching duel, can be great, but this one was pretty boring, I think, for the most part. Lorenzo Cain in his first game as a Brewer went 3 for 5 with a stolen base. Yelich 1 for 4. But yeah, overall, congratulations to Brewers getting the win on opening day. Obviously, this was one of the longer games, went 12 innings. But yeah, I mean, you never know with baseball. With this one, if you were to tell me, 2 of the 3 best pitching duels out of the day was going to be this one and the O's game, I would have thought you were crazy. But that's baseball.
Yeah, and the thing that was interesting about this game as well is just the fact that I thought for sure that Thames was going to play. He did have a pinch hit, but I'm doing my Thames sighting. Eric Thames, where you at? He's not in the lineup again tonight. Braun is playing first base. Domingo Santana, of course, is in right field, which is causing all of this because they just have a cluster. And I mean, I guess they're just going to use Thames on the bench, which kind of shocked me because he had a good year last year. So, like you said, we'll see how much Braun does play first, if he doesn't like it or not. But maybe this game will be different tonight. Maybe it'll be a blowout. So definitely not one of the more interesting games to watch. But, I think the most interesting game to watch was the next game, which was the Phillies versus the Braves. The Braves actually did win it 8-5. This was another walk-off win in the bottom of the 9th. Nick Markakis hit a 3-run home run. And this is a game where kind of a little bit shocking as well because, thinking that the Phillies might actually win. And, speaking of the Phillies, actually, they're playing right now, and Rhys Hoskins actually got his first home run of the season.
This was definitely the most controversial game of the day. Aaron Nola was pitching awesome for Philly. He went 5 1/3, only had 68 pitches, and hadn't even given up a run to that point. They were up 5-0. And then Gabe Kapler pulled him. Obviously he's a rookie manager. This was his first game. I was really excited. He's very sabermetric heavy, But man, that was almost too much. Nola had just given up a double to Inciarte, or Albies, one of them, and then the Gabe Kapler, the Phillies manager, went out and got a lefty out of the bullpen to face Freeman. And Aaron Nola even said after the game he was shocked to see the manager come out and pull him. And the reliever went on to give up a 2-run home run to Freddie Freeman, and then they gave up 3 more runs in the 8th inning to tie it back up. And like you said, it must have been a good day for either Orioles outfielders or former Orioles outfielders with Hector Neris coming into the 9th inning, and it ended up giving up 2 base hits, a walk, and then a 3-run homer to Nick Markakis to end the game. So, a lot of people are really on to Gabe Kapler so far, not really liking it because he didn't start Odubel Herrera. He took Rhys Hoskins out, I believe, in the 7th inning for defense, and then that would have obviously helped them in a tie game. So maybe some people aren't really into the sabermetrics as much, or especially whenever they backfire like that.
Yeah, and you have 3 teams here that we keyed on during all of our off-season talk, which was the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Phillies, all having former players being first-year managers. And the difference here is the Phillies are not the Yankees. They don't have Stanton who can just go out there and hit a bomb, so you don't have to worry about it. I just don't get pulling Nola. He had 68 pitches. That's not a lot compared to all these other guys during the day throwing 80, 90. I kind of get it. You don't want them to go, too long. You want to kind of conserve the game. I just, I agree. I just don't get what he was doing pulling Nola. He didn't look bad at all, and that kind of gave the game away. So, he still has some stuff to learn. I feel like this was kind of a misstep in the wrong direction here.
No, I agree 100%. That was obviously bad. It didn't work out, and you think maybe it was because Nola got injured, but whenever he said he didn't know what was going on, then you really have to wonder maybe that might have been overthinking the situation. Cesar Hernandez hit a home run off Julio Teheran. Like I said, Freddie Freeman hit a 2-run home run. Ozzie Albies hit a home run. Obviously, Markakis had his home run, and then like you said, currently watching the Phillies game, and Rhys Hoskins just hit his first home run of the year. So definitely some homers so far, because Rhys Hoskins, surprisingly enough, actually stole a base in the first game yesterday. So now he's got a home run and a stolen base to go along with it. But the Phillies, they're gonna love him whenever all that stuff pays off, when the sabermetrics works out and everything. But whenever it backfires, then you really have to wonder what's going on there.
Yeah, and moving on from this game is I'm going to start a whole new segment here. This is called the Twilight Zone, okay? And what this is going to be one game. When we do this podcast, we're obviously not going to talk about every game because there's just too many games to talk about. So we're just going to pick out some stuff. Since this is opening day, we're kind of going over everything, but this is the Twilight Zone right here. This is the game that it's a head scratcher. The White Sox won 14-7 over the Kansas City Royals in a game that featured home runs galore. And, Davidson, 3 home runs. Abreu got a home run. Tim Anderson hit 2 home runs. This is a game that in the beginning, the Royals jumped out to a 4-0 lead, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. Chicago's rebuilding. Kansas City still has some good guys. Salvador Perez obviously is not in this game because I don't think we've talked since he got hurt. He got, MCL tear carrying his luggage, which is funny to me. This little tangent on the offside that you always hear about these guys getting ACL tears, or, in football, hurting themselves carrying luggage, doing this. When have you ever heard of just a normal person tearing their, MCL carrying luggage on vacation? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Salvador Perez was coming home from spring training, getting ready for the first day of the year, carrying his luggage upstairs, like you said, slipped and tore his MCL. They said he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I think it'll probably be longer than that because, honestly, as we talked about, the Royals aren't really competing for anything. And being on, as a catcher, you really need your knees to be all right to crouch down like that. But, yeah, you're exactly right, man. These guys are obviously freak athletes. They can do things that no normal people can really. But all the time you hear about stuff like this happening. A pitcher will cut his hand making a sandwich and he'll be out for 5 days or 6 days. And it's like, Man, this stuff, I don't know if it just, I mean, it's just crazy, man. I've never slipped and fallen, carrying a box or luggage. I mean, maybe he was trying to do it all, like whenever you carry groceries in the house, and he didn't want to have to make 2 trips, so maybe he had too much.
Just had it all underneath his arms, everything.
Exactly, but that's terrible, man. Hate to hear that stuff.
So the thing is now we have confirmation that the White Sox have a voodoo master or somebody in there, because they put a hex on the Royals and 14 runs. 14, which is, let me see here. Yep, the most runs scored today was by the Chicago White Sox. Now, we talked about Chicago being a fun team, someone to watch this year because of the rebuilding aspect, but man, did they look good.
I mean, yeah, of course, whenever you have, Jose Abreu hit a home run, which is expected, he's a stud at first baseman. Matt Davidson, the DH, hit 3 bombs with 5 RBIs. Whoa, I did not see that one coming at all. I mean, obviously he strikes out a lot. Last year he had a pretty good year for him, but I don't think anybody saw this coming. And even more unexpected than that, in my opinion, was the shortstop, Tim Anderson, hit 2 home runs. So, they were crushing the ball. I don't know if the wind was flying out or what was going on in that game. But, man, something got into the White Sox water. They were just hitting bombs. And Lucas Duda, he hit a 3-run homer for the Royals in the first inning off of James Shields. But, yeah, I mean, neither one of the starting pitchings looked great. Shields, he went 6 innings, gave up 4 earned, got no strikeouts. And Duffy went 4 innings, gave up 5 earned. So neither one of them was going to be great. Like you said, the White Sox are definitely I expected them to be an exciting team. I wouldn't say I expected this at all, and I don't think anybody did. But definitely, the most unexpected game of the day, because, I mean, the White Sox just crushed them, dude.
Yeah, it's they could have scored more runs because, as you're looking here at the box score, Wellington Castillo just had an awful day. He went 0 for 5. Only struck out once, but left 5 runners on base. Moncada didn't have such a great day. He went 1 for 6, left 4 runners on base. But they really did take advantage of those runners on base. I felt like Duffy was in a groove early on. I felt like he was pitching well. You have James Shields on the other side, which, we like to give James Shields a lot of crap. He used to be really good, but then this always seems to get blown up. And I remember in that first inning, I came upstairs and told you, I was like, there's a James Shields sightings because 4 earned runs. And then after that, didn't give up anything. Went 6 innings, kind of settled down. Didn't strike anybody out, but, I mean, just total opposites here. Duffy having a great couple, first innings. Shields not so great. And then just out of the blue, just in that 4th inning, the White Sox just exploded. So, definitely a very interesting game. Definitely not one that I thought would go this way, but it'll be interesting to see the next couple of matchups for sure.
Yeah, man, and I think another, as we said, that was pretty unexpected. I think the next one was even more unexpected.
Yeah, the next game was way more unexpected. It doesn't quite make the Twilight Zone segment because Block's not that bad of a pitcher, but Block actually outdueling Clayton Kershaw was a sight to see. Clayton went 6 innings, gave up 8 hits. He was giving up a lot of hits left and right. Did strike out 7 batters, so was still striking people out. But the main stat here is he gave up an earned run and took the loss as they lose 1-0 to the Giants. And Block actually picks up the win here. Only went 5 innings. That's the max. The minimum you need to do for winning a game. Did strike out 3 batters, but I mean, this wasn't much offense coming from the LA Dodgers today.
No, I mean, exactly. Kershaw gave up that home run to Panic, lefty. That was obviously crazy. But, I mean, even before the day, like a couple weeks ago, we were obviously circling this game on the calendar. This was the one we were most excited for, and because it was going to be Kershaw Bumgarner. And then whenever that got canceled, we were like, wow, that's really going to put a damper on things, man. I don't even know if we want to watch it. Obviously, you never know. Like we talk about, I mean, Todd Block, he outpitched Kershaw, not only got the win over him, but he really did pitch better than him just because Kershaw, like you said, he did give up a good bit of base hits Still got his strikeouts, but yeah, the Dodgers lineup, man, you gotta put some runs on the board against this kid. He's throwing the fastball, 88, 89 miles an hour. You got Chris Taylor going 0 for 4, Corey Seager going 0 for 4, Puig 0 for 3, Bellinger 0 for 4. So he really did a great job of stopping that lineup. And just before the game, we found out that Mark Melancon, he's going on the DL to start the year because apparently he has a forearm strain that he's been pitching through spring training with forearm soreness. So Strickland came in and got the save. Tony Watson struck out the side in the inning he pitched, former Dodger and Pirate. So yeah, I mean, definitely really unexpecting that one. Now tonight they have Cueto against Alex Wood, so that should be another good matchup. But I don't know about you, but it was still really weird to see Andrew McCutchen and Evan Longoria in Giants jerseys instead of the Pirates in the Rays jersey.
Yeah, definitely. It looked a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. Longoria looked a little off. He went 0 for 4, struck out 3 times. Not very Longorian-ness. But on the other end of things, like you were saying, all these guys going 0 for 4, 0 for 4 for the Dodgers, and just shows you how huge Justin Turner is to their offense with his on-base percentage and his ability to put the bat on the ball. And, that's just one of those things that, they're going to be missing for a while. And with this talent, they should be able to put some runs, especially against a guy like Block. But today he was just on, and, it's not every day that you say someone who's projected to be like the 5th starter outduels an ace, but it happened last night.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was awesome. And it was a good game too. I mean, it was, a lot of guys on base, a lot of guys pitching around some trouble. I mean, the Giants left 15 guys on base and the Dodgers left 16 guys on base. So obviously there was a lot of traffic on the base pass, but a lot of clutch pitching. Obviously that's one of the best rivalries in sports, definitely baseball, but probably all of sports. And that was really the only one at that time. So I think this one was the one that we watched the whole thing. But man, that was a good game. Honestly, I think somebody to keep your eye on is Matt Kemp. He looks a lot smaller than he did last year when he was with the Braves. Looked like he slimmed down a little bit. And like you said, without having Justin Turner, they obviously have a roster spot open. So he's definitely going to get a chance now while Turner comes back from injury. So if he can stay hot, he went 1 for 3 with a walk yesterday. If he could stay hot and play an okay left field for them, he might be somebody that they might get some value out of from the Braves.
Yeah, and that is one thing that I think that they could get a lot of value from. It's one of those things where I think that the Dodgers, in this instance, that if they can just take the next 2 games and their offense looks fine, I'm not going to worry about it. But if tonight again they kind of throw up a 0 against Cueto, I might be a little bit worried just because of how they looked. Now, a team that I'm not too worried about how they look, maybe the offensive side, but I'm just going to go and throw it there. It's a he's back sign. Corey Kluber technically pitches the first complete game of the 2018 season, but he loses. He goes 8 innings, which was awesome. Strikes out 8, gives up 2 earned runs on that Nelson Cruz early home run, but Kluber looked amazing last night, and those 8 innings, he only pitched 91 pitches.
He was awesome. I mean, that's vintage Kluber right there. He gave up, like you said, there was a lot of rumors before the game. Well, is Cruz going to be ready to go? I had that calf injury in the spring, so some people didn't think he was going to be able to even play this game. And Cruz hit a bomb off of Kluber. I think it was in the 3rd inning. Actually, the 1st inning. So that was in the 1st inning of the game, and Kluber gave up a 2-run homer to Cruz. And then after that, Kluber kind of just cruised to the end. But obviously, Ichiro was back with the Mariners, but even bigger than that, Felix Hernandez was with the Mariners, and he looked awesome. Went 5 1/3, only gave up 2 hits. It's not old school King Felix. He's not throwing 96 with that devastating changeup, but he's still sitting like 91 miles an hour with the fastball. And if he can really learn how to, just work with a little bit lower velocity, he can come back and Seattle might be an interesting team if they can get Felix figured out.
Yeah, and hats off to their bullpen as well. They put on a Game of Thrones effort here and held the door shut, if so to speak.
That's terrible.
Altilva, Rozibinski, Vincent, Nicasio, all picking up holds in this game, and big bullpen work from the Mariners. These guys were going like 2/3 inning, 1/3, just matching up left and right. They did use a lot of guys, but they beat the Indians, and that wasn't an easy thing to do last year. And the Indians' offense didn't look so great. A lot of guys were batting some offers. Now, I do like to say hats off to Cruz for that home run. Best DH. If you paid attention to our rankings at all, I have him ranked 1 through 5 as the best DH, and he showed why today. He is the best DH with that bomb. But on the other end over here, Encarnacion went 1 for 2. But other than that, let's see here. What is it? Lindor went 0 for 4. Jose Ramirez went 0 for 4. Alonso went 0 for 4. Not a lot of offense from a team that was expected to have some big offensive numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you were talking about with the Mariners bullpen, Edwin Diaz, he came in and struck out the side to get the save. But I just don't think they were, I think Felix really had them off balance with that changeup. I didn't get to watch a lot of this game, but King, I watched the recap. King Felix looked awesome. Like you said, Lindor, Ramirez, Alonso all went 0 for 12, 0 for 12 combined. I think really one interesting thing was they had Lindor batting leadoff. I don't know if that was what they had, that's what they had talked about for a while. That was the first I really saw of it, so I was kind of surprised whenever I saw Lindor batting leadoff with Jose Ramirez in the 3 spot and Yonder Alonso batting cleanup. But also, one thing we have to give a shout out to is D. Gordon. He looked awesome playing center field. He's really taken to that like a natural pretty much. He looked really good out there for somebody that hasn't played it, I think, since high school. He's playing, it seems like he's really going to get the hang of center field pretty easily. Obviously, he's got speed for days. And Mitch Haniger, the Seattle Mariners young right fielder, he went 3 for 3 on the day. So that's always a good way to start the year.
3 for 3, all off of Kluber. These guys, Sale, obviously, like I said, he could have pitched out there. I'm just surprised Kluber went 8 innings. Like, that was the most impressive thing on this whole day to me. Not any of these other games, not these come from behind, not Tampa Bay beating Boston. Just Kluber able to go 8 innings, which is something that doesn't happen in the game very often. So if he would have just gotten a little bit of run support, definitely this could have been a complete game win for him. And I feel like their pitching, not going to be an issue, but just a little worried about their offense for sure. Now, the last game on the table, I didn't get to see much of, but I'm surprised that it kind of went this way. The Diamondbacks beat the Rockies 8-2 in an effort where John Gray didn't look very good.
Yeah, I mean, John Gray didn't look great, and he went 4 innings, gave up 3 earned runs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. But I think, their bullpen really did pretty bad yesterday. I mean, Chris Rustin came in, he pitched an inning and a third and gave up 3 earned, and Mike Dunn pitched an inning and gave up 2 earned runs. So, the one thing with the Rockies that they really put a lot of money into was their bullpen, and obviously they pretty much struggled yesterday. I mean, Patrick Corbin pitched awesome for the Diamondbacks. He went 5 2/3, gave up 2 earned with 8 strikeouts. But Arenado still hit a home run off of him, and so did DJ LeMahieu. But yeah, I mean, it seemed like the game, in my opinion, and I don't know how you feel, was actually closer than the score says. It seemed like the Rockies were pretty much in this game until almost the end of it, and then obviously Arizona ended up winning. But yeah, I mean, the Rockies, they really are going to obviously worry with pitching a lot this year. That's just kind of what they do. Even though this game was in Arizona, it was nice to see Goldschmidt. He had 3 walks on the day. Jake Lamb actually had a really good day. Almost hit a grand slam, just missed it. Hit a bases clearing double. But yeah, Arenado, he's obviously a stud. The one interesting thing about the Rockies is their top prospect, first baseman Ryan McMahon. He made the team, but so far hasn't gotten to start yesterday or today. So it's going to be really cool to see how they integrate him in the lineup. Desmond started at first base for him yesterday. But yeah, I mean, 8-2. But the Rockies had a ton of hits, and Patrick Corbin pitched pretty well for him.
Yeah, nothing really much to talk about other than just the Rockies hit the ball, just couldn't score runs, and Arizona hit the ball and they scored runs. So that's pretty much the only thing that happened. Jake Lamb had a nice day. Other than that, it was kind of a lackluster game in my opinion. I kind of liked the pitching duels better. I was definitely surprised Arizona won this game, but These are two teams that, both played really well last year, and they're probably going to be battling it out all year. Now, there was two other games on the day that got postponed, which actually played today. One was the Pittsburgh versus the Detroit Tigers, the Pirates versus Tigers, and the other one was Washington versus Cincinnati. And they actually ended up doing their opening day first games today. And now the Pittsburgh game, I had a chance to watch that, and it was kind of a flip-flop in my opinion. Nova looked really bad early, but got out a lot of jams, and Zimmerman looked like he was on, and then kind of gave up the lead a lot of times. And this is a game at the end that kind of had a little controversy, because technically the Tigers won it in the bottom of the ninth, but it got returned, or reversed, I should say.
Yeah, this game was crazy. Like you said, Jordan Zimmerman, he was pitching pretty well, and then like you said, just gave up a couple of runs. Nova seemed to be pitching out of trouble the entire day. The Tigers had the bases loaded with nobody out in two separate innings and didn't score a single run off of either of those situations. So that was definitely crazy. But yeah, the Pirates, they ended up scoring 4 runs in the top of the ninth, so that you pretty much think that's over. And then they bring in Felipe Rivero, even though it wasn't a save situation, and he was terrible today. Obviously he was great last year. He ended up giving up a hit and walked 3 guys, got 4 earned runs, which tied the game back. And then like you said, the Tigers, they thought Nick Castellanos scored on a single, and it looked like he was scored. They called him safe. The team celebrated, went crazy, and then the Pirates challenged it, and they ended up winning the challenge. He got called out. They said that he got tagged before he touched home plate, so they had to play 3 more innings, and then Gregory Polanco ended up hitting a 3-run homer in the top of the 13th inning, which got the Pirates the win. So yeah, Miggy, he seemed like he had a pretty, it seemed like he was almost back to his normal self. He went 2 for 6 with 2 RBIs and a walk. Castellanos had a pretty good day, 2 hits, 2 runs, and an RBI. Victor Martinez, he left 7 guys on base and 4 at bats, so obviously that was a bad day for him. But yeah, big days for Polanco. Josh Bell, he went 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs, and Starling Marte went 2 for 5. So yeah, overall, that was, like you said, it was a really interesting game. It seemed like the Pirates were pretty much in command of it all day, and then the Tigers just kept scrapping back and tying it back up. But yeah, that was 13-10. That was the most high scoring game I think combined out of all the games.
Yeah, and one of those games that it was kind of weird as well, because you didn't expect the offense from both these guys, because they're kind of rebuilding-ish, not have a lot of great offensive players. But Pittsburgh definitely looked really great in this game, hitting-wise, in their top half, just all over the ball. Same kind of with Detroit. Not as much. They needed to take advantage of those bases loaded situations against Nova early, and they didn't. And that was really their main downfall. With the Castellanos play, looking at it again, it looks like he tagged him on the hand before he came in. It was really close to tell. It could have gone either way, but it ended up not going their way. So really, really feel bad for them to go from a situation where they think that they walk off win and then they end up losing. So that could be really crushing to them, and we'll see how it plays out come the next couple of days.
Yeah, that was, really surprising. I thought it looked safe, and then when they went to the replay, one angle it looks safe, one angle it looks out. Obviously, the Tigers fans, as we've talked about, probably won't have a ton to cheer for this year, so that would have been nice for them to get that one, but hopefully they can bounce back tomorrow and pull out a W.
Yeah, and the final game from the opening day, and we'll just say in the second half here, was the Nationals versus the Reds, which you were talking about you got to watch. And, Scherzer put on a clinic in this match. He went 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, walked 1, gave up 5 hits. But he really, really kind of settled down and looked kind of like all these other guys. Like Sale looked great. Kluber obviously looked great. So Verlander looked great. Definitely a well-pitched game from Scherzer for sure.
Yeah, and not only for Scherzer, I mean, obviously he's won back-to-back Cy Youngs. He's great. It was really nice to see Homer Bailey out there, who pitched really well. He went 6 innings, only gave up 4 hits to a really good offense, only gave up 1 earned run. And something that you might know, you might not know, some of the listeners, this is the Scherzer pitched through 100 pitches, and Homer Bailey threw 104 pitches, and that was the only 2 pitchers on opening day, all the games, that threw over 100 pitchers. So that was, it's definitely, this is the first time I think since 1935 it said. It's only happened, this is the 3rd time in history where 2 starters have thrown 100 pitches on opening day, only 2 of them. So, that was crazy. Like you said, not a lot of starting pitching this day. But yeah, I mean, I think one thing, and I want to ask your thoughts about it, batting Trey Turner 6, what do you think about that?
I think it's a little too early to find out. Obviously, Trey Turner has some speed, but a guy who also has some speed is Adam Eaton. And, Adam Eaton's one of those guys that I really loved whenever the Nationals picked him up. And, he got hurt early on last year and, wasn't there for the lineup. So I feel like they're going to try this out a little bit, see how Eaton fits at the top of the lineup. Obviously, he went 1 for 3, had a walk. Trey Turner went 0 for 3, had a walk. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you don't want to bet 2 guys who are kind of like the same type of player back to back. I like it to where they go Eaton, Rendon, Harper, and then Zimmerman. I feel like Trey Turner could probably hit either 5th, and if you're going to do this with Trey Turner, you should probably hit him a little bit lower too, like in the 8 or 7 spot, but you don't want to do with the pitcher. So if you have good hitting pitchers, maybe you do the pitcher 8th, Trey Turner last, so you go Turner, Eaton, have those 2 leadoff guys. But I feel like it's not a bad spot for him in the 6 hole. Definitely could see him in the 5 hole. If not, then you should definitely put him in the 1 and maybe bat Eaton, maybe 3. But then you're really moving Harper out of the 3 hole. So I don't know. They just have a lot of good hitters. I think it's just more experimental, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good problem to have, But yeah, overall, I mean, I just, Michael Taylor did something pretty cool in the top of the 9th. He bunted to get on first. Then he stole second, advanced to third on a ground out by Matt Wieters. And then Brian Goodwin hit a fly ball to left field, and Michael Taylor scored to make it 2-0. So that was kind of cool to see them manufacture a small ball, like we always talk about, like just the last game with the Pirates and the Tigers had all those runs. And then you get a game like this where, it's pretty much 1-0 almost the entire time, and just a good old-fashioned pitcher's duel, Now that's all the opening day games. Is there anything tonight that's really standing out to you? I mean, so far it's 8:50 on Friday night, so there's definitely some games going on. Anything sticking out to you right now that we can mention really quick on the podcast?
Yeah, it is 8:50. We're on the East Coast. Couple things that I wanted to mention is I did say it earlier. Rhys Hoskins did get his first home run of the season. The Phillies and Atlanta are tied up 2-2. But Boston and Tampa Bay's locked in a pitching duel was Price versus Snell, and that's 0-0. Other than that, I'm really looking forward to the Angels versus Oakland game tonight, and also the Milwaukee-San Diego game, because I kind of want to see if maybe Milwaukee's going to explode out of the hole there.
Yeah, I mean, David Price has looked awesome so far, man. That's been one of the games I've been watching while we're podcasting, and I mean, he's went through 6 innings, only given up 3 hits, has 5 strikeouts, but he's only thrown 66 pitches through 6 innings. So he's really been keeping that pitch count low. Chris Bryant, he hit a home run, so that was his first one of the year against the Marlins, and so far the Yankees are up 4-1 over the Aaron Sanchez and the Blue Jays. So yeah, I mean, like we said at the start, it's obviously great to have baseball back. It's so great to be able to share, our first ever opening day and our first ever season with everybody out there that's listening. The popularity seems to keep going up each time we release a podcast. So that's all thanks to you guys, that get us so excited. I mean, while like Ryan said, he came over yesterday and we were sitting there and we'd see a play or we'd see something happen and we're like, man, we got to talk about this on the podcast. So, it definitely brings a whole new aspect now whenever I'm watching games or even, talking with Ryan about baseball off the air. But and that's all thanks to you guys. You guys have been great, giving us some ratings, likes on YouTube, even leaving a couple comments every now and again. So just please continue with the support. And like we talked about last time, if there's any player or team that you want us to specifically look at, just let us know. And obviously we'd love to watch it for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, thank you everybody for tuning in, listening each and every week. send us comments, send us an email. Don't be afraid to do that. We'll definitely look into it. If you want us to watch a game, we'll watch a game and see what's going on. But yeah, thanks everyone. And the next couple of weeks and going into the season, we're going to break down some of the games that stuck out to our mind. Like I said, we can't do every game during the podcast because it would just be too many during the week, because we usually record on the later end, so it would have been like 30 games that we talk about. So we'll pick out some that we find interesting, some top highlights. If you want us to watch a game, like I said, let us know. We'll specifically watch that game and then talk about it on the next podcast, or a whole series, whichever. So thanks everyone, and thanks for coming out and talking with me again, Logan, and we'll catch you all on the next podcast.
All right, everybody, enjoy the games. Thanks, Ryan.